I'm here with Professor Adam MacLeod of Faulkner University. Professor MacLeod, you talk about claims of religious freedom, and you put those into two categories. Can you tell me about those?
Yeah, I think often it's tempting for Christians when they're making an invocation of religious freedom to simply invoke religious freedom or religious liberty by itself and simply say, well, we're exercising our religious beliefs or convictions, and therefore we should be protected by law, by culture, but basically that liberty should be respected in some way. It has a very simple appeal. It avoids a lot of the nasty controversies that a lot of Christians understandably want to avoid. The difficulty with that approach, which I called in the talk an opaque claim of religious liberty, is it allows those who oppose the claim of religious liberty to paint over it their own motivations and their own understanding of the motivations of religious believers, and to characterize that exercise of religious liberty as if there's something nefarious or untoward behind it, like a motive to discriminate or a motive to oppress. So I think it's important for Christians and Jews and believing Muslims and other people of faith to make transparent claims for religious liberty, to explain in the public square why it is that we believe that religious exercise has value, that religious service has value, that in fact we're asking for the liberty to do good things in the public, to serve our neighbors, and to obey conscience, duty to something higher than ourselves.
Why do you think it's so hard for Christians to take that angle on it? Why are we afraid of being transparent?
Well, of course, once you become transparent, you get into areas of difference with other people. You get into controversies about what does it mean to obey conscience, what is in fact good for society. And this, of course, implicates these profoundly controversial questions like marriage, the value of human life, and legal protections for life. And so I think there's an understandable reticence to avoid those conversations. The reality is we can't avoid them anymore if we ever could. There's a sense in which Christians will be made to care about those issues whether they want to or not. So since we can't avoid the conversation anyway, I think it's incumbent upon us to think carefully about how best to have that conversation in a way that speaks well of our Christian faith and that projects a winsome and winning Christian witness.
Is that true specifically for people in sort of the legal world, or is it true for all Christians?
I think it's absolutely true for all Christians. This is not just a matter of law. This is a matter of our calling as followers of Christ.
Mm-hmm. And so for any believer of any faith, really, who does want to take a more transparent angle on defending their rights, how do we start? How do we begin to think more carefully, as you said, about these issues?
Well, I think the first step is to think very carefully about what good things we are achieving through the exercise of our religious practice and the obedience to our religious conscience. I think the very first thing is the very idea of duty to something or someone higher than myself. I think that's very valuable. It's something that our society desperately needs. We live in a narcissistic, materialistic consumer society. And so I think there's a market out there that people would like to know that at least somebody believes in something higher than themselves and feels called to serve. But then the service itself can take so many different forms, and does in Christian communities. You have churches, parachurch organizations, nonprofits, Christian for-profit companies that are doing terrific work, feeding people and clothing people and providing for material needs, and moral and spiritual needs as well. Educating with Christian colleges and schools. These are all good things that religious people are doing in society, and I think we should think very carefully about how we can communicate just why they're so valuable and why they're so important. Well, I think this is a unique moment and a unique opportunity, given how much conflict there is over the exercise of religion in public life today. A lot of people are paying attention to what we say in a way that they've never have before. And so this is a moment of opportunity, I think. Obviously it's challenging. The way we go about doing it matters a lot, and I think we need to be very careful and thoughtful and reflective about that. But it has great promise.